Hello and welcome to another episode of Webinar Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about bundles, how you can make a bundle selling bundles on Amazon. Hi Mark, how are you doing
Oh,
today?
how are you? That's very witty.
That's Cordelia's presentation title. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So Kevin is not joining us today. It's just the two of us, and it's pretty late for you today, right? It's almost 8:30
Yeah, it's
p.m.
8 o'clock. Yeah, it's
8
8
o'clock.
o'clock here. It's 8 o'clock here for
Yeah,
us, yeah.
cool. So before we invite Cordelia on the screen, and she has a nice presentation prepared for all of us, we just wanted to talk a little bit about the fundraising campaign that we had done. When was it? Last Saturday, last week.
Yeah, a few days ago. This
Few
week's
days ago.
flown by again like everything else.
Yeah, over the weekend. So overall, it was quite successful. We didn't meet our target of $20,000, but we were able to raise $9,000, and we still have donations coming in. And the campaign is still open and active. So anybody listening, in case you want to, help a little bit, go ahead and go to this link, type it in your browser, bit.ly/isn.sing, and you can donate a little bit. Now, this fundraiser is to help underprivileged families in India who are dealing with COVID and who are really struggling to make ends meet because there's unemployment. You know, a lot of people in India are daily wage laborers, for example, or they work in small restaurants or shops that are actually shut down because of lockdowns and curfews due to COVID. So we have partnered with a charity organization, Dipalia, to run this campaign, and we did a whole 8-hour charity singathon on Saturday to raise funds for them. And what Dipalia will do is that they will distribute food and sanitization kits to these underprivileged families. So any amount will really help, even if it's $5, $10, whatever amount you can contribute, it'll be much appreciated. So definitely go to this link and check it out.
And maybe go back and listen to some of our great singers, because we had some awesome people. It was amazing the talent that we had. I just was blown away with some of the singers. They were great.
Yeah, and I was really pleased to see so many singers from different countries come forward
Yeah,
to
it
volunteer.
was good.
Yeah, so we had people from the US, Australia, India, Singapore, Philippines. Very
Yeah, no, they were
multicultural.
great. It was really good.
Yeah.
Really lovely. And a lot of them were original. A lot of people had written original songs too. It wasn't just all like covers. It was, a lot of talent, because to write a song, I think, is pretty special.
Yeah. And a lot of people from within our community. So there were, kids of e-commerce sellers, for example, Summer Beecham.
Yeah, that's right. There was Summer and
Yeah.
Beige's daughter, and
Yeah.
so we had, so it was great, yeah.
Awesome.
And
So
some of
all
the
of you-
Japalia students as well.
Yeah, the Palia students too. And overall, we didn't have too many tech issues. I mean, there were a few tech issues, and some people's mic wasn't working that well. But overall, I think it went pretty smooth.
Yeah, considering we were sort of have people from all around the world, and we've had like India with power outages and things, so I think it went pretty well.
Right. So all of you guys watching, tell us in the comments if you watched the Singathon last Saturday. It was Friday evening in the US. So post a comment and let us know if you watched, a part of it, if you were there. Let us know in the comments. Okay, so let's get started. In the meantime, I'm going to invite Cordelia Blake. Hi, Cordelia. How are you?
How are you?
We're well.
You guys just reminded me I keep meaning to donate, so I'm gonna go do that as soon as we're done here. It's been on my mind and I keep forgetting. So everybody else should do that too. We can all probably share a little bit of our abundance and help some people in need. So
exactly, every penny counts. That's how the ocean fills up with drops of water.
Exactly. But that's great that you guys were able to raise $9,000. One of my friend's daughters sang, and it's such a wonderful thing for you to do. So
yeah, was it Georgie?
No,
Yeah,
it was
Nikki.
She changed her name, and I can't remember what she goes by now. It's
Okay.
Karen's daughter.
Okay, Nikki.
but-
Nikki's daughter, is it?
No, Karen's daughter.
Karen. Okay, I just know her
Anyway,
face.
I need to. She promoted it, but
Yeah.
she somebody who changed her name when she grew up, and I can't
Okay.
remember her like, it's wonderful that she changed her name to Sue.
Yeah. Yeah.
When somebody when they're little, it's hard to remember their new name. So
Yeah.
I don't remember it. So that's
Might be
terrible.
Maribel.
That's it, Mary Bell.
Right? Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, she's
Yeah,
a wonderful
she was awesome.
person and a wonderful singer. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Trish is saying hi.
Hi, Trish.
And then,
Where are you, Trish?
Can I just remind everyone to, if you're joining us from the Facebook group, then go to this URL, streamyard.com/Facebook, and give StreamYard access to your name or your profile so that we can see who you are. Okay, so Cordelia, where are you joining us from?
I am here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, and it is 6 a.m. So
You're okay.
But I'm privileged to be here. I love speaking about selling products successfully online, and I am a morning person in general. So you can catch me at 6 a.m., usually fresher than at like 9 p.m. when I'm pretty much into a pumpkin at that point. So I used to do shows every week at 9 p.m. and now I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how I ever did that, because usually I'm like in bed. It's very boring, but I don't get up at 5 a.m. and be a 9 p.m. person. I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share your slides and
Okay.
yeah, we can get started. Do you have an introduction in your slides? I didn't ask you to introduce yourself.
I do have a little bit of an introduction.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And my cat has decided to join us as well.
It's usually my dog, so it's a change.
Yes, the COVID pets, right? Who all come on our meetings with us. So, say hello. All right.
Hi,
All
Kitty.
right. Okay, so how to make a bundle, selling bundles on Amazon, which I think a lot of private label sellers do not. They don't take advantage of this. This is a huge way that you can take one or two products and turn it into a lot of different products. You can test different things. You can try different price points. And in my opinion, I think it's something that's really underutilized by brand owners. So I guess, hold on, let me go to the right thing to click on here. There we go. So this is a testimonial from one of my customers. So I do a couple things. I run a group of online sellers called Scanner Society. And our whole big thing is we help each other. So that's what we do. We have a lot of other things we do, but that's our main tenet. I also have a consulting company with a business partner, and we help brands and Amazon sellers maximize their profit. So like we're consulting right now with a company that wants to get into bundling, just for example. And so we're helping them understand how to take what they're already doing and expand it into bundling. Because like everything, when you already know how to do something, it seems doable, but when you don't, it's a lot of work and figuring things out. So we help people with that. And I have been selling online on Amazon since 2013, and I have been in e-commerce since 2011. And I have a background as a trainer. So as soon as I learned how to do stuff, the first thing I wanted to do was teach other people how to do stuff. So you can see my name here. I put it in this format because it's hard now. There's so many ways to reach people, right? Like it's like I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and email and web and so I don't have the bandwidth to be different identities on different things. So if you put my name into whatever thing you're on, you can probably find me. So what is a bundle? A bundle is a group of different products that go together to make a single product that you're selling as one thing. In the real world, a bundle is really more of like a technical term for Amazon, I think, although more and more e-commerce platforms are using it. But it's called a set or a kit, I would say, would be like the real world word for it. And bundles can be functional, where you just put together a bunch of stuff to solve the customer's problem in one purchase instead of them having to make multiple purchases. Come on, listeners. Okay. And so functional bundles are great. I think a lot of times people get hooked, like they think that's all bundles are is functional. But they can be functional. You always want to think about your customer and how can you save them from doing work. So if they can buy one thing and be done versus 3 things, then you're helping your customer do less things. So that's a good thing. Bundles can be giftable. You know, a lot of online platforms, including Amazon, they have gift wrap, but it's expensive, number one, and it's kind of ugly, right? Do you guys have that in Australia and Singapore? Do you have gift wrap stuff from Amazon?
Never done it.
Yeah, we have it. Yeah.
Okay. It comes in this like drawstring bag. It's like a blue felt draw. It's not really wrapped. I think the way they do it, it's like a bag with like a gold ribbon. It's not very attractive. So if you know that what you're selling is a premium gift item, you can include you can show the customer that it is going to arrive to the person they send it to already in a beautiful form. The person doesn't have to pay extra for gift wrap. It's just done. Bundles can be sourced via arbitrage. Now, I know your community here is more of a private label community, but I did want to show you, this is an example of an actual product on Amazon that was purchased from our dollar store in the US, and it sells for like $25, and it was purchased for $3. So bundles can be sourced all different ways. Bundles can be sourced via wholesale, where you take several different products from either the same wholesaler or multiple wholesalers and combine them into one product. And then, of course, private label is a great way to source bundles as well. And then my favorite is the blend, where you take some wholesale products and some private label products. Now, I personally, my company, we don't really do arbitrage anymore, but I know a lot of people do. But in this community of your guys, is what your guys people do, they're pretty much all doing private label. But wholesale can still be a really good way to get into a new product line at a lower budget point. And it can be a way to, if you're creating a bundle, that way you don't have to like create every single component in the bundle. You can add something from a supplier that you can source pretty easily. So it's just an option. Make sure when you're bundling products that every piece of the bundle adds value to the customer. Sometimes people have talked about bundling as a way to keep other people off your listing, which I think it works for that. It's a great way to do that. But you really want to make sure that what you're putting in there is something that will be what the customer wants. So this is actually an example from Amazon of an Easter basket, and a seller put in their highlighter pen with their corporate logo in it to try to keep other people off the listing, instead of actually going to the trouble of having an Easter related item put in the bundle that would actually enhance the product. So I use this example because it drives me nuts. And you know, I see sellers do this all the time. So it's not against rules. It's just, I think, bad sales practice. So don't do it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bonus product research tip here for bundling and in general. But let's say that you decide that you want to put an eye mask in your bundle. A lot of people get really hooked on product design when they're looking at sourcing these products. And one of the really easiest ways you can figure out product design is to go look at what's already successful, and it tells you what customers want. So for example, you may think that a great way to distinguish your product is to write something cute on the mask, right? But you can see from the rank here that the black ones actually sell the best. So don't overcomplicate the design process. Just kind of like a bonus tip. And if you are bundling, you should definitely brand register, sell your bundles as a product under your brand, under your company, and go through brand registry. So I highly recommend that process for sellers. If you're going to start a bundle, you need to have custom branded packaging for your product. So this is through the brand registry process, but you want to look at like a poly bag or a box or something that has your brand on it, even if all the components are not your own manufactured products. Bundles are a great way to raise the average sales price of what you're selling. They're a great way to maximize one private label product into multiple products that you can sell. You can own your own listing easily. So even if you're brand registered, you still sometimes have to worry about other people copying your product. But the more layers of complexity you put into your product development, the harder it is for somebody else to come in and just steal your idea. And it's all well and good to trademark and all this other stuff, right? But the fact is that most of us that are small businesses really can't afford to litigate true copyright infringement or trademark infringement. So if Coca-Cola comes along and infringes on my trademark, I'm pretty much up a creek, right? I mean, like, I'm not going to fight Coca-Cola. I don't have the money for that, right? So people talk a lot about the legal protections that they can have. And I think it's important to get those. But keep in mind that legal protections only work if you litigate, which is very expensive. So bundling is a really inexpensive way to put something very hard to replicate into your product so that you don't have to worry about litigation or anything like that. And I love bundles too as a way to add value to the customer. Again, I always go back to what can I put in here that will make the customer's life better? And that's really, people get really caught up in bundles that like how to pick stuff that goes together. And really just think about like, what problem are you solving, or what perceived problem are you solving, and what else can you do to solve that same problem? And it helps you make products that are hard to replicate. So I think I might have said that already. One thing I want to distinguish here is the difference between a bundle and a multi-pack. So in the Amazon world, a multi-pack is when you have multiples of the same item. So let's say you're selling that sleep mask. You could do a multi-pack. If you're the manufacturer, you can do your own multi-packs. You can do a multi-pack of like 3 or 5 sleep masks, which I think is a great idea, because if you're like me, you lose those things behind the bed all the time. So you want to have multiples. And then you could do also with the same exact product, right? You've ordered 2,000 sleep masks from a factory, right? You could make a multi-pack. You could do several multi-packs. You could do a gift set. You could do like an aromatherapy thing with a candle and a journal. And then you could test all these things and see which is most popular. So a multi-pack is multiples of the same thing, and a bundle is multiples of different things, basically. And this is, I mentioned earlier, how you can get in touch with me. I work with brands. I work with individual sellers. I have a company, and we do that together, not just me personally. And we do coaching. So if you just need help, like getting pointed in the right direction, we can help you with that. Or if you need a bigger picture help, we work with listings, blah, blah, blah. That's my pitch. But in the end, I'm really here to just help people grow. So I'm trying to turn off my slide share right now, and I don't think I have the control. There we go. So bundles are fantastic. They're wonderful. People really underestimate how long it takes to develop a good bundle. I have people say to me like, oh, I have like a spare evening. I figured I could come up with a few bundle ideas. And I'm like, well, would you design a product from start to finish in an evening, like 3 of them? Probably not. Bundles are a product. So as much thought and research that you would put into any product, you put into a bundle. And so a good bundle it takes a long time to develop, but then, like any product, you hope it sells and sells and sells. The other thing that's cool, if you take my example of the sleep mask bundle, so let's say that you decide you're going to do a sleep easy bundle with like a journal, a candle, and a sleep mask, just for example. Or maybe you do one of those Himalayan salt lamps because people like to sleep with those. Well, you could do different journals. You could do one more towards men, one more towards women, one more towards kids. And so you could have out of your same sleep mask 3 products. And so there's a lot of ways you can use bundles to just expand your reach and test different customer niches as well. So that's my pitch about bundles. And
Yeah, I think
I've created tons of them. I love them. We have a lot of them in our product mix, and I've done them over the years, and they're just a really good way to sell products, and I love them. So
right. What about virtual bundles? That's different, right?
yes. So thank you. I meant to add a slide on that and I totally forgot. So virtual bundles, what are they and why you should never use them? Well, okay, this is just my personal experience. So first of all, what is a virtual bundle? So an actual bundle is when you as a manufacturer or seller or whatever you are, take your 3 things and you put them in a bag and then you label that and sell it on Amazon. You actually, or your team or whatever does that. A virtual bundle is, let's just say that you're selling, back to my sleep mask example, you've got a sleep mask and a candle, say, and you're selling those separately. Well, you decide to create a virtual bundle, which means that you create a third product listing in Amazon, and you say, this is my sleep set, it's got a mask and a candle in it, you set the price, you write a listing for it, and it doesn't really exist as a bundle until somebody buys it, and then Amazon sends the things separately to the customer. So here's all the things I don't like about virtual bundles. Number one, the customer doesn't receive it as one thing. So if you have your product, usually Amazon puts our stuff all over the place, right? So it's in several different warehouses. So if your masks are in one warehouse and your candles are in another, they're going to arrive in separate packages to the customer. I don't think that creates as nice of a customer experience as just receiving it together as one thing, especially if you're giving it as a gift. Even if you're not, it's confusing. I don't know about you guys, but I order stuff all the time and I like forget what I ordered. So I'm like, oh, it's like Christmas. What's this? What did I order? And so when you do that, if you just got one thing in your bundle, you'd be like, wait, I thought I ordered, like, it just creates like an uncertain experience for the customer. The other thing I don't like about it is the listing. So I'm a listing data geek. And so I spend a lot of time writing a listing, doing keyword research. I do a lot on that. And the listing for the virtual bundle, it's not as good as a regular listing. And then the most important one probably is that just anecdotally, we have found that putting stuff in virtual bundles kills all sales. So the stuff that was selling separately, like, stops selling, and the virtual bundles doesn't sell. So I tested it like 2 times, and then I never wanted to test it again because I didn't want my stuff to stop selling. So I think that, I've heard people say, well, oh, we're using it just to test what products to put together as actual bundles. So I haven't really talked to other sellers who've had great success with it, but it is free to try it. So it's not going to cost you anything in terms of dollars upfront or whatever, euros, pounds, whatever your currency is to sell it. So you can test it for yourself and see what you think. But that has been my experience.
Cordelia, just with the bundling, for people who are, say, whether you're sourcing from China or India, where do you suggest that you get it all put together? Like if you're using things from 3 different manufacturers, say, how do you logistically find is the best way to get it together?
Right. So here's the thing that is really challenging about importing whatever country you're based in. One of the challenges I've had with importing is the quality control is always a challenge, because ultimately Amazon holds me accountable for every product that my customer receives. And so we are very particular about quality control. So we receive everything in our warehouse here in Atlanta and we inspect everything personally. So we assemble all of our bundles and send those into Amazon. We do not send anything into Amazon that one of our team has not reviewed. I've just had some experiences that I've kind of learned that the hard way. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that are selling from different countries to different countries, and so that's harder to achieve. I still believe that that is the best customer practice. However, if you're not doing that, then somewhere along the way, you have to find the place to combine it. So it's going to be, I don't think there's a one size fits all solution to that problem. So some people have like a freight, I can't think of the name of it right now, where like they have say they have 3 manufacturers in India, and then it goes to one central place, and then that company ships it to wherever there's a name for that, and it's escaping
3PL.
Freight consolidator, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
Consolidator.
3PL.
Well, right. But the consolidator will take all the products and ship them together to the new destination country, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3PL is a fulfillment center for Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. So you could, in theory, have that consolidator in like India or China do it, although I think it's unlikely to be that successful. You could have your 3PL, if you're in the US, if you have a fulfillment center in the US, you can have them do it. The challenge you're going to have, especially for new products, is, again, I'm a big believer in hands-on inspection by the seller, because I think it's very hard to control your quality without that. But there's a lot of things about costing out bundles that have to do with, packaging and making sure the size works. But you can figure that all out virtually. It's just a lot harder. But yeah, so you can have your 3PL do it. If you're going to do that, be careful, because some providers charge like a flat fee for fulfillment, but then if it's a bundle, they charge you per item. So if you have like 4 items in a bundle, it might cost you $4 extra to have them assemble it, which really can cut into your profit. So $4 added onto your cost just to stick stuff in a bag together it's a lot. So if you think you're going to be bundling, make sure you have an arrangement with your fulfillment, wherever along the process you're going to do it. Talk to them about it and negotiate that, because it can really kill your profits. The other thing that you need to make sure when you're creating bundles is you want to make sure this stuff is easy to, like sometimes you might have a great idea, but like one thing's really big or one thing is breakable, or, so if you're working with a fulfillment center, you have to talk to them about what they're willing to do. So when I was putting together a gift bundle, at one point I literally in the product development process, I called up my fulfillment. I don't use a fulfillment center anymore, but I used to. I called them up and I said, hey, I'm putting this gift thing together and there's got to be something in there. So I don't care if it's peanuts or that crinkly paper or tissue paper, but there's got to be something inside to put all the stuff together and make it look nice when the person opens it. What do you guys want to work with? And he told me that he would work with this little, those little strips of paper that are like, they're little strips of newsprint and they're crinkly and
shredded sort of paper. Yeah.
Except it's pretty. He told me he would work with that. And then I got a complaint from him about how his team hated working with that. And I said, you said that you were okay with that. I offered you tissue paper, which is a lot easier. But when I developed this product, you told me your team was okay with that. And so in the development, I asked him, because that is a pain in the neck to stuff every box with that stuff. And so whatever system you use, you need to work with them to help in the development so that you make sure that they're going to be willing and able to fulfill your product.
Yeah. I think if you're sourcing the product from India or China, it may be overall more cost effective to get it packaged here, just because labor costs are lower over here. So if you can do that, I think it might be more cost effective to do it here. And if you're sourcing, but of course, if you're sourcing a product from, the US or somewhere else, then that's going to be more difficult. So it really depends on where you're sourcing the products from. And also, if you're sourcing maybe from China, if you're sourcing one product from China that needs to be shipped to India, or vice versa, that gets tricky as well. Because then you have to make sure that you don't end up paying import duties, because that product is actually for re-exporting. It's not to sell in the domestic market. So there's a whole nother process for importing those kinds of products that are for re-export. So
that be worth paying the extra to have it assembled in the US then, because you're not having to deal with multiple import-export rules. But
Yeah.
one of the things about importing in general that I think it is doable now. Like, it's something that small businesses can accomplish, whereas like 30 years ago, it was really not. But it doesn't mean it's easy. Like, it's still really complicated. You still have to make sure you have the paperwork right on every different step of the process. So definitely adding more products in the mix isn't going to simplify it, but it could really expand your product selection and give you more selling options.
Right.
And two, would packaging be more expensive to have made in the US? Like, obviously, if we're getting packaging done in India, the cost is quite cheap. So, do you use local manufacturers, or do you get your packaging made offshore and bring it in as a flat pack?
So right now, we don't do branded packaging. So we have some branded packaging that's just printed really like with our logo. So it's super simple. So that we get made in Canada. But we sometimes just ship in like brown boxes. So we don't always customize our packaging because, like you said, it can get really, really expensive. Yeah. And so that's what we do, but different people have to find the solution that works for them. Definitely if you're doing like a full like printed box or something, that's really expensive in the US. You have to import that to have it be pretty much economical. But what you could do in theory, and I know people who do this, is you could have, your packaging imported to your fulfillment center and then your products, and then they assemble everything. That's a lot of people do that here in the US. So that's another option. It's all part of, kind of the product development process, right? So some bundles it really depends. Like, some you can just put in a poly bag. Like, it doesn't always have to be like a gift presentation, right? If you're putting together a hammer and a screwdriver and a wrench, for example, it doesn't need to come in like a gift box. So it really depends what you're selling. We have bundles that we sell just in poly bags. So it just really depends.
Yeah. What about barcodes? How does that work? So each bundle would need a unique FNSKU or what's the other barcode?
UPC.
UPC, yes. Yeah. Or GTIN.
Yeah, GTIN. So Amazon keeps changing how they want us to handle that, right? So the perfect solution is to go through GS1 and get your codes, but it gets really expensive. So in Amazon.com, if you're brand registered now, it's really easy to get a GTIN exemption, which means that you don't have to have a UPC code. You can just have the Amazon ASIN. So you can apply for a GTIN exemption, but in order to apply for a GTIN exemption, you need to have branded packaging. And so even for brands that aren't going to invest heavily in branded packaging, I suggest you get maybe like 100 units of something or whatever, so you can put at least one of your bundles in it and when you're applying for the GTIN exemption, they want casual photos. So they don't want your nice product shots that look like they were professionally produced, because they're too easy to Photoshop. They want it to look like it was like in your living room in your hand. So they actually want to see your hand in the picture. And so it's like you take it with your phone and you basically do not try to make it look good. So for that, for the GTIN exemption, you really should be brand registered. Now, historically, that was not always the case. So you may meet a seller who said, well, I got my GTIN exemption 2 years ago and under the brand generic. And just because they could do that 2 years ago doesn't really mean that it works now. So, and I've heard cases of people who were able to still get GTIN exemptions for non-brand registered brands. But usually you need to have a brand and you need to be in that process. Right. But yeah, any product you sell either needs to have a UPC code, whether it's a bundle or a different product. It needs to either have a code or it needs to have an exemption.
Right. And so you're also able to combine wholesale products with your private label, right? So, I mean, that's another option. So if you have something, I don't know, maybe a gift box or something. You can maybe put chocolates inside.
Yeah,
Right? That works
exactly.
too. So you have your private
Yeah.
label product and you combine it or bundle it with something that's wholesale. So do you have to make sure that you remove the barcodes of the products that are in the bundle or anything like that, or it doesn't matter because it's all in one box and there's one barcode at the on the outside, right?
It really depends on your packaging. So anytime you ship anything in for like FBA fulfillment, you never want any barcodes showing except for your sticker, right?
Yeah.
So the same process you'd use for any product, use for a bundle. So if you're using like a cardboard box, for example, as your packaging, it's fine. Nobody will see inside of it.
Okay.
If you're using like a clear poly bag, then obviously you need to be more careful that the codes don't show through the bag. So you would just be as careful with that as with anything else. And then, some people let Amazon do their own, like label their products for them. I'm not a huge fan of that, but you can do that. But in that case, so what we do on all of our packaging is, and it's not very sexy, but it's after years of like learning the hard way. We put stickers on all our boxes that say this is a set, do not separate. They're big orange stickers on every box seam, right? So if it's like a cardboard box, you tape on the top and the bottom. The top seam has one and the bottom seam has one, because we don't want any warehouse person thinking they need to open that box and take the stuff out of it. And so we put this is a set, do not separate on every single package. Unless you're going to shrink wrap the box. If you're going to shrink wrap each box, you don't need to do that because it's clear that you should not open that. Usually it's clear, although for every damn, I have friends who've had bundles taken apart at the warehouse and, just messed up. But usually if you make it clear that each thing is its own unit, they don't open it. But you do have to do that.
What about returns? So let's say, somebody returns the product and it's a bundle and, product is missing. Like, how does Amazon ensure that all products are in there before they put it back on the shelf? That's got to be tough, right?
We don't really. So this is another just kind of hard thing about selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
Even if you tell them, so for all of our bundles, we don't let them repackage them. So we don't, so like really the only thing I've ever let them like decide if it should resell is like casual clothing. I used to sell casual clothing, but I'm like, if sweatpants come back and they assess that they're okay to sell, it's probably okay. Like nobody's going to get sweatpants and be like, oh, this doesn't look perfect, so, but in general, we don't let them decide our returns. So if somebody returns something, we either dispose of it or we have it sent back to us. But you're right. I mean, it would be very hard for you to know if everything was in the bundle when they returned it. So I would just say, especially if you're doing it from another country, just plan on, that's part of your P&L, like determination when you're figuring out your profit and loss. Like you're just going to have to say, okay, if 10% of our products are returned and disposed of, are we still profitable? Because I don't think from another country you can really manage returns very effectively.
Yeah. So is that an option on Amazon? Because Mark, didn't we? I think we.
Yeah. No.
Once there's a return,
sure.
we have to wait for Amazon to determine if it can go back on the shelf.
They determine it's sellable. We don't get a choice. They put it back on the shelf whether we ask them to or not. We can't choose that.
Oh, I think in Amazon.com you can choose that. Maybe it's changed, but you can say that you don't want. I have to check on that because you used to be able to determine.
Not if they reimburse you for it. If it's very fine line. If it comes back in and they decide it's sellable, they just put it back on the shelf whether I want them to or not. So you really don't get a choice with that. They'll just put it back on the shelf. If you can tell me how I can change that, I'd love to know.
Because
me too.
My business partner, she's the Amazon form whiz. So it used to be that you could say, I want but of course, even when you said I don't want returns going back on the shelf, they still did it half the time anyway. But at least you could say, we want to just receive our returns or dispose of them. But I don't know if that's changed. So I have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, no, because I can't find that.
I think it's just a risk of any selling, right? I mean, we all take that risk that they're going to sell something to a customer that we don't want them to, and it's going to be on us. So, just make it really clear. And I also generally don't. So sometimes people return stuff through Amazon. Like, I'm not involved, right? They just go through the process and they just return it. And I have no, really input on that. Other times people reach out to us and they say, hey, whatever, this thing's missing or this thing's messed up. In that case, we always just reimburse them and tell them to dispose of it. We never have them send it back in, or mostly we don't. It kind of depends. You can kind of tell when people are trying to game the system versus when they have a real problem. So sometimes if they're trying to game the system, we'll tell them they have to send it back in. But so it depends on how you fulfill it as well, if you merchant fulfill it versus FBA.
Right. Okay, so we have a question from Trish. Going back to the basics, how do you bundle as far as a listing goes?
Like, how do you write a listing for a bundle? Is that the question, Trish?
Yeah, so I guess it's just like you would write a listing for another normal
it's
product, right? So it's not really different.
No, listings are different in different categories, but we don't write our bundles as like variations or anything. So it's just a separate product. We do keyword research, we do title research, we do all the same research for a listing that's a bundle as we do for any other listing. Okay. Trish, let me know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, so maybe she's confusing regular bundles with virtual bundles, because you said for virtual bundles, even though there's a listing, there's no physical.
There's two listings,
right. Yeah. The way the virtual bundles work is you go in, there's like a menu command, and you like say you're going to set up a virtual bundle, and then they have a listing in there. And I've only done it a few times, but the listing was not as robust as a regular listing. But mostly it just didn't work. Like it froze up all of our sales, so we didn't dive deep into it. But so a variation, not all categories allow variations. So for example, if you're selling, back to my athleisure thing, if you were doing sweatpants, you can do like different sizes, different colors. Those are variations. Now, there are companies that cheat the system and they do things as variations that are against terms of service. I never, ever recommend that. Never. You're always going to be the one that gets caught. Like I used to tell my son that. I'm like, dude, I don't care if 6 other kids did it. I promise you, you're the one who's going to get caught. So yeah, there are variations where you'll see that it's like 20 variations on a product and they're all different things, and they really aren't variations. They're really just somebody trying to game on a listing and get the reviews and stuff, like game the system. But I do not recommend that. So some categories, they allow variations by size and color is really all you're supposed to do a variation on. So doing like 3 different bundles with like 3 different ingredients as variations, I've definitely seen sellers do that. It's completely against terms of service.
Okay. So Mark, what kind of products do you think we could bundle from India? Like, I'm just trying to think.
There's probably lots of things. Say, I don't know, salad bowl, salad service, stuff like that. That's just something that comes to mind quick and easy, because it's something that, you usually need to serve, the dish or something like that. I don't know, candle holder, candle, those types of things I'm thinking, which, some people probably bundle and don't realise they bundle. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're already bundling.
And think about what that candle's for. So let's say that's a meditation candle. Then just using candle as an example, I don't love selling candles because they're meltable. So half the year you can't do FBA, but let's just use candles, right? So if that's a meditation candle, you could include some incense with it. You could include an incense holder with it. Those are all like commonly made in India. You could include a journal, like a nice spiral bound journal that had a pretty picture on the front that you have made for you, which is very inexpensive to do. You can include a lovely pen, a special pen to write your meditation with. They have those bells, right, that you ding and they make that tone to help you meditate. That would be another thing you could bundle with that candle, right? So let's say you're selling a candle that is a centerpiece for a table. Well, that one you would want to sell maybe with those, those dried flower things that you put around the base of a candle to make it look like there's flowers around it. I don't know, like a wreath almost, but it's like on the table. You could sell that. You could do a charger, which is like a decorative dish with it, like you said. You could do napkins, like cloth napkins that coordinated with the charger and the candle. Textiles are beautiful from India. You could do a table runner that went with it, so that you could put that on your table with the candle and it was like all coordinated. So it depends. Is it something you're buying that's utilitarian for yourself? Are you giving this as a hostess gift when you go to somebody's house? So when you bundle, you really want to think about who your customer is and you really want to niche down, right? So you could take the same candle really and sell it as a meditation kit and sell it as a table centerpiece, right? It just would depend what it was with it. Let's say that you're selling a citronella candle that goes outside to keep the bugs away. Well, that candle you're going to want to maybe do with a lighter, and maybe you're going to have a pack of 3 because you always need to have more. And maybe you want to have a snuff with it so that when you're done, you can put it out. I'm just, kind of making this up, but thinking about who your customer is and solving their problem and solving their, their needs is really the kind of the heart of bundling.
And how do you manage categories? So let's say you've got a textile-based product with a wooden bowl, for example.
Right.
So how do you manage categorization on Amazon?
You kind of just take your best shot. I mean, so sometimes it's obvious what it is, and sometimes you just have to do your best.
Just go with the most
there's some
one.
guidelines where they're like, well, the bundle goes in the category the most expensive item is kind of a general guideline. So if the bowl is, let's say, $5 and the cloth is 50 cents, then you would put it in the bowl category. But like, you really just want to think about who's probably going to buy it and what they're thinking the main item is, because sometimes the least expensive thing is really the thing that people, especially if you're importing, because people don't know how much stuff costs when it's imported. So they might think that this beautiful handmade lace doily is like the centerpiece. And you're like, that was just our throw-in thing that we just did. Or maybe you get some kind of, this stuff cracks me up. Vegan leather. Have you guys heard of vegan leather? Like when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, that was called pleather, and it was the crappiest, cheapest stuff ever. And nobody ever was like, oh, my thing is vegan leather. Like it's all fancy. But now it's like a thing, right? Because there's vegans and plant-based, and they're like, it's vegan leather. We used to call it Naugahyde. Like it was the cheapest stuff. Nobody had nice furniture had it, right? But now it's like, so let's say you do a vegan leather journal with like a pretty design on it, which is basically a very inexpensive journal, but maybe that's like your centerpiece. And the pen, which really costs you 4 times as much because pens are more expensive to get made, is really just to the customer is perceived as the add-in, not the centerpiece. So you kind of have to think about like what the person looking at it is going to be most excited about and put in that category.
Right. Makes sense. Great information, Cordelia. So guys, let us know if you have any questions for Cordelia before we start wrapping up over here. So we usually do our lives in the mornings of our time. So
thank you for flexing your time for me. I am not a nice person anymore, so I appreciate that.
No worries. I think a lot of people in our community will watch the replay. So cool.
Well, I'm in the group, so if you guys have questions, feel free to tag me because I don't always read everything. But if I'm tagged in it, I will definitely read it and answer your questions. And I do have a YouTube channel, which is free. So I post content there almost weekly about selling on Amazon, how to do bundles, brand registry. I just did a video on how to do bundles for brand registry like last week. So that's all on there, and it's just Cordelia Blake TV is my YouTube. So that's another place you can get more information if you want. But yeah, tag me in your questions. I'll be happy to help, and let me know. The thing that's hard about bundles is until you start creating the one for your company, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. And then you sit down and create your own business's bundle and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even understand. What did she mean solve a customer's problem? Like it's very esoteric until you're actually in the trenches trying to plan it for your own company. So sometimes that's why people like to hire us a little bit, even if it's just for an hour or two, because then they can just privately discuss their product and they don't have to worry about like it being public in a Facebook group or whatever, but we can do that too. And just so you know, we never consult, like we have a category we sell in, we never consult with companies that are in that category. So we don't compete with our customers, but that's another option. If you just need a private, like, how do I do this for me kind of thing, we can do that too.
Right. So Deborah says, thanks, Cordelia. You've pretty well covered everything, and vegan leather is so environmentally unfriendly.
It really is.
That's true, yeah. So I think also that there are two... Yeah, so there are two types of vegan leather, right? I mean, one is the pleather, which is basically the plasticky kind of thing, which is really not environmentally friendly. But then there's also plant-based leather, which is environment friendly. I think people sometimes confuse the two, but I think the plant-based leather is pretty good because it's made from cactus and cork and all of those materials. So it's not plastic, it's all natural. I think that is more, that should be considered vegan rather than the other PU, what's called PU.
I think it depends a lot. Like not every consumer is educated. So I know to look for stuff that's actually like biodegradable and compostable and comes from natural sources. But some people just, they're just like, oh, it's not leather, check the box. So, okay. So Trish wants to know about the mechanics of the bundle. You do not need an ASIN for each. If you're doing a virtual bundle where you're combining all your inventory into like a virtual bundle, then each one will already have an ASIN. But if you're creating a product, it's one product, whether it has one thing in it or 20 things in it. It's one product, one ASIN, one identifier. So commonly, like what we do a lot in our bundles is we have a product image, which has everything in it. Which I generally recommend you digitally compose and not try to shoot a nice picture of everything because not that many people are good at that. But, you have one main image, like for any listing, and then we will frequently put a picture of each individual component separately, like in the secondary images. But the primary product image has everything that the customer receives, and it's one product. So it's one ASIN, one UPC, one picture, one product, one listing. Does that make sense, Trish?
Yeah, so everything is in one box. It's one listing. It's almost like a set. You could also consider bundles like a set. So a set of, like 10 tools, for example, hand tools. So it's a set of 10 tools.
Right. Like if you buy silverware, like when you're moving and you need a new set of silverware, you don't think of that as a bundle, but it is. It's got forks and spoons and knives, right? So that's a bundle. So it's one product. You're buying a set of silverware. It's one product, but it's got 3 different things in it and multiples of each thing. So you're really creating a product, even if it's, multiple things inside of the product.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things are bundles of pepper. I think Trish, I can think of like a table runner, table napkins and the napkin rings. That is a bundle, but it's really just like a gift box, I suppose, with everything in it. But that is really what we're talking about as a bundle. So it's just one ASIN. So so there's probably hundreds of bundles on Amazon that people don't even call a bundle. They just put things together, like a candle and a candle holder. And that is a bundle, but we don't talk about it as a bundle because we just put it in a nice box, put an ASIN on it, and describe it as a candle with holder. So it's really done by a lot of people without even realising what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, Cordelia, thank you so much for your time today. It was great information. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to Cordelia. Check out her group, Scanner Society. Is that the name of your group?
It is. That's our paid
Yeah.
group. I also have some
Okay.
groups, but we have brand building on Amazon, which is a free group. I can put links in the comments if you guys want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I get it now. It just adds value to the main product.
So,
Yeah,
and I have a bunch of bundle videos on my YouTube channel. If you guys want
Yeah.
to, Trish, if you want to learn more about it, sometimes people just need to see it like from different perspectives. So that's all free content on my YouTube as well. So
Okay.
I
And
can
then
put a
your
link.
YouTube channel is just Cordelia Blake. So all of the
It's
channels
like
is
Cordelia
just your
Blake
name.
TV, because I guess
TV.
Cordelia
Okay.
Blake was taken, so I had to put a TV on the end. But if you search for me, you'll find me on YouTube. Yes.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Cordelia, and we will see you in our Facebook group.
Mhm.
No
Bye,
worries.
everybody.
Thanks, Cordelia.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
We'll see you next week for another Webinar Wednesday. Bye.